so it's that time. So we'll call the meeting to order. And everybody be able to see the flag?
Yep.
All right, we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of
of
the
the
United
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
justice.
justice.
and justice for all.
Yeah, that's hard to do. All right, roll call, please.
Mr. Hamel,
Mr. Hamill here in Highland.
Clerk Flowers is here in Highland. Mrs. Frederick,
Mrs. Frederick is here in Highland.
Mrs. Cooper,
Mrs. Cooper is here in Highland.
don't believe we have Mr. Howe with us yet. Mrs. Lewis,
Mrs. Lewis is here in Highland.
Mr. Salvia.
Salvia, Highland,
All right. Looks like we're missing one for the time being. Mr. Howe will probably be joining us shortly.
All right, next item is approval of the agenda. I have no suggested changes at this time, so somebody wants to make a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support Lewis.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
All right, Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamill, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next item is the consent agenda. Can I get someone to make a motion to approve?
I would move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support Salvia,
You moved and supported. The vote, please.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamill, yes.
motion carries.
All right, next item is announcements. Offices will be closed Thursday, November 11th for Veterans Day, and Joe and the boys will be putting on a short ceremony at 11 o'clock. If anybody wants to be there, it'll be at Veterans Park. And if you could get there at quarter two, that would be good, so we can set up for it.
It's a very brief ceremony, so don't be late.
If you breathe, you'll miss it. So,
Yeah. And a couple other announcements. Lakeland High School and Milford High School will both have veteran recognition ceremonies open to all veterans. Lakeland is on the 9th, Tuesday, tomorrow. Arrive at 11 o'clock, ceremony about 12. Milford High School, the Friday, the 12th, be there at noon, ceremony about 1:50. There'll be a lunch provided or refreshments.
all right, thank you. The Highland Township office will also be closed on November 25th and 26th in observance of Thanksgiving holiday. November 27th is Small Business Saturday. November 30th is Ladies Night Out in downtown Highland, sponsored by Downtown Development Authority. The Festival of Trees is December 1st through the 31st. The tree lighting will be on Monday, the 13th, right, Missy? Monday? At Veterans Park. And the next item, I'm going to pass over to Judy Cooper for a special thing for Jude Halloran, our former director of the Highland Township Library.
I don't know if you can see this or not, but here's a picture of Jude. Masked and holding up her retirement cake, so thought I'd share that too. I worked with Marion, the librarian, and
at the library, and Brenda Dunseth on this. So we thought it would be great to honor Jude. She just gave so much to all of us, the whole community, and the community roundtable the last few years. She was just a great addition to that. So proclamation for Jude Halloran upon her retirement, October 15th, 2021. Whereas Jude Halloran ventured north on US 23 to the beautiful township of Highland in October 1987 to serve our fair community as adult reference librarian. Whereas approximately 4 years later, Ms. Halloran's exceptional skill set fit the qualifications for the stellar library director she became for the next 30 plus years. Whereas Jude Halloran took that role to heart and fulfilled that position, always steering the library's mission towards the new and upcoming. Whereas Jude immersed herself in whatever the task at hand, learning the lingo and applying that knowledge where needed, be it construction of the library or playground, to tax revenues, to diversity, civility, branding and strategic planning, and all the minute details involved. Whereas Jude's note-taking skills are worthy of publishing to keep various committees on track. You know who you are. Would we ever stay out of the weeds without those skills? Whereas when Miss Halloran spoke, we listened for what she had to say, was well thought out and worthy, for she is open to new ideas and her attention to detail is second to none. Whereas Jude has been warm inside Highlands Library for 34 years and is by nature a great outdoors kind of gal, it is time for a very well-deserved retirement. Whereas with thankful hearts, we the people of Highlands Fair Hamlet wish you many happy, healthy years full of adventure, camping, hiking, gardening, reading, of course, and just plain enjoying the next phase of your journey with those you hold most dear. We wish you well.
Good job. Miss her.
I know.
Miss her.
Brenda's doing a great job already, though.
Yep. Well,
It's my new hangout, you know.
You do hang out. It's a great place to hang out.
It is.
So, all right. Thank you, Judy. And best wishes to Jude. I know she's probably not going to be on this meeting tonight because when she retired, she retired.
Yeah.
That was her her approach to things.
Yeah.
So next item is public comment. Do we have any public comment?
I have public comment.
Hold on, I think Mr. Anderson.
Okay.
Bill, did you have something to say? You need to turn your mic on.
Mr. Anderson, you're still muted.
There we go. Okay. A couple of months ago, we discussed the solar installation for the rebuild of the town hall, and I was just wondering if there was any type of analysis on that I could have a chance to look at sometime, or that was being shared to the public, indicating the costs and the trade-offs and the current savings that would be realized from being, so to speak, mostly off the grid for electrical. Is there some sort of a document or a study that was generated for that?
We do have a document, and we haven't made a final decision on it yet. Although we're moving forward with that in mind. I don't have the document to share tonight, but if you're interested in looking at it, you could get a hold of me, and I could sit down and show it to you and talk you through it.
Sure, I'm interested. I'm interested in those types of numbers. That's all. Okay.
Actually, it's pretty interesting. The just the excess current from the panels will basically cut our electric bill in half, which is over $800. Was over $800 a month. So it'd be a savings of $400 a month just in electricity generated. So it's a pretty good deal, especially considering that it's still cheaper than buying a generator. So that is only going to work when the power goes out. So, and decline in value.
Okay.
So that's we can sit down. I'll show you what we got. Be glad
okay.
to.
One more question I have. I noticed that there was some line items here for water testing from the state of Michigan. What exact constituents are they looking for when they do the water tests?
So when we do water testing, it would be the nitrates and then bacteria.
But that's in our wells, right? Just the.
Yeah, it's I think you're referring to $142 from the state of Michigan.
Yeah, and numerous locations, I noticed
Yep.
that.
So that was every well that's a type 2 well. So any well that has 20 or more uses.
Okay, one more item, one last item. I noticed that the community sharing topsoil is being sold. What type of a contract was arranged for there?
That was in exchange for removing the dirt from the site. I would have had to pay somebody to move 2,000 yards of soil. So what we did is we were able to actually get rid of the soil off the township property, which would have had to been deposited somewhere else. And we were able to convert it to topsoil and put it to use for somebody. So in exchange for the dirt, the company rented a screener and organized all the sale of the topsoil. So, and the other thing that K&K, the company that did it, is they leveled and compacted all of the crushed concrete that we'd brought in for the building foundation. So it's an exchange that I feel is really benefit to everybody. So it's not a monster cash cow like some people might think. So that's what was done with it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Anybody else have a comment?
Joe had
Okay.
one, and then I've got one after him too.
Okay.
Joe?
I'll decline my comment. It actually was just to let everybody know that yesterday in Detroit, it was my 16th year of managing the Detroit Veterans Day Parade. So
Wow.
our fame, our color guard led the parade, and just to let you know that we're elsewhere doing things. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Justin?
Ours is the Activity Center has another Zoom presentation by Allison Beatty tomorrow night, the Lady Spies of the War, World War II. It starts at 7 and there's no sign up needed. The details are on our Facebook and a few other places if anyone's interested.
Great, thank you.
Supervisor Hamel.
Yes.
I was just wondering if any of our board members had any questions about the financial reports they receive in the board packet or the treasurer's reports. And if you ever do, you can ask them here or you can contact us. And just to give a quick update on our financials, the 4 main funds that we use: general, fire operating, police operating, and fire capital. We are at our projected revenues and expenditures currently. So there's most of them are 50 to 80% revenue we've collected. And same with expenditures, 40 to 80% of 2021 projected expenditures. Just a quick financial update.
Thank you. All right, I wanted to bring something up here. One of our guests on here is Devin Cox, and Devin I've been in contact with him, and he's here for the, unfortunately, Devin, we got to wait till the end of the whole show here, which should go fairly quick, to talk about the proposal for a broadband master plan. So Devin is with us from Entry Point LLC. That would be the company that would be doing the broadband master plan. So I just wanted to introduce him at this time. So if there's questions during the present, when we have this conversation, we can feel free to have him answer those questions. So, all right, on that note, was there somebody else?
Hi, Rick, this is Walt Zopp. I didn't know if you wanted me to ask my questions regarding the post-employment health.
Actually, I handed those off to the fire chief, and I'll let him answer those questions when we get to the
Okay.
resolution. So I'm expecting, Ken, I hope you have a copy of that so you can read those questions and answer them for Walt.
I do have a copy of the questions.
All right, so when we get to that item, which is 9 pending business, which is in a couple minutes, I'll turn that over to Ken and he can explain that to you, Walt.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's a lot simpler than you think. It's
Good.
gotten
Simple,
convoluted as all get out. And
Okay.
I have to leave it at that because it's more than it really needed to be, but it's simple. So, all right, that's all I have for comment. Anybody else? All right, then let's move on. The next item is a public hearing for the township budget. So this is where if anybody has any type of questions, this is the time to ask them or state your commentary. I'm not sure about how we deal with that, answering those questions, but we'll try. So we'll start the public hearing at 6:46. So does anybody have any questions in the public? Seems that was easy. Thank you. All right, if there's no questions. Justin, you see anybody out there waving?
Don't know.
All right. Then we'll end the public hearing at 6:46 and a half. That was too easy. We need the "that was easy" button. Where'd that go? I think Karen's got it.
That's my button.
Yeah, but Karen stole it. You moved on. You got elected to a different position, so she's got the easy button. Right, next item is a public hearing for CDBG 2022 application. And I have to make it clear that at this time, no comment from the board. That's a requirement from CDBG. So, all right, we'll start it at 6:47. Okay, is there any public comment? Okay, so no public comment. So we'll end that at 6:48. Okay. That was easy. So we'll move on to the next item. Number 9, pending business. This is where resolution 21-21 for the establishment of a post-employment medical expense reimbursement plan. So Ken, you're on the hook for this one. I'll let you explain it.
Last year we negotiated a good faith bargaining with one of the labor groups, the IFF, a post-employment health reimbursement account. Basically, it's a set amount that's put aside every year into a 401k type retirement program. And then once they retire, because we don't offer retiree insurance, they can use those funds to offset insurance costs. It's pretty cut and dry and to the point. The board voted last December to approve the contract. Currently, we have 7 full-time employees. That's 6 on shift, and then the fire marshal will all be entitled to $1,500 a year that'll be put into this post-employment health retirement account.
Okay, so do you have those, you have that email that I forwarded to you?
Questions?
Yeah, would you read those, please? And then so that Walt has that answer to those questions. We'll identify.
Yes, sir. And I'll start out to summarize the previous comments, questions, which stated he was trying to understand why is it important for the township to do this post-employment. The township or this post-employment plan, or adopt the, I assume it's, or adopt the language that you're about to adopt tonight. The township, again, is ensuring all the safety of all of its assets and potential litigation in the future. Should they have any issues in the future, this is based off the following questions originally posed by one of the township attorneys. Does the current plan and trust documentation contemplate the township's intent with respect to the proposed plan and trust, or is it boilerplate documentation? The trust plan doc. There are a couple questions brought up by the attorney to make sure that everything was covered and everything was covered and there was no exposure by the township should we agree to this plan. And then the second question that he had, Mr. Zopp, is there any questions about why is this important for the township to do?
It sounds like it's a part of a negotiated contract is what I think the opening comment was. So we have to do it as part of the negotiated contract.
Correct.
And is it just for the firefighters or is it for every Highland Township employee?
It's just for the bargaining group IFF.
Okay,
There's two bargaining groups in the fire department,
thank you.
IFF and MAF.
And the $1,500, is that coming out of Highland Township or is that the employee contribution to their plan?
That's coming out of my budget,
Okay,
206 fund. And I budget for that every year based on whatever whatever's negotiated the previous year.
okay. And there's a administration fee for the third-party administrator.
Yep,
Is that-
and that was the next question. How much is tax? How much will it cost the taxpayer to fund the trust? And it's a 0.5% annually, and it's charged quarterly at 0.125% of a at 0.125% quarterly. But it equals out to 0.5% a year
Of the total in the fund?
of the total of contributions for that. The way I understand it, of contributions for that month or for that year, rather.
Okay,
You know, Walt, Rick Hamill here, the reason there's been so much, I said there was conversation about this, is that there's so little money involved in this. In reality, that there are very few people, funds would even want to take it on. So our current health insurance group, Burnham and Flowers, had agreed to use some of the resources that they had to find somebody that would do this. And it turned out it's a company out of, I believe, Nebraska. And there were some questions that came up as to, are we following Nebraska law or Michigan law? So it turned into an attorney back and forth. And so we still have some other information we have to get. But basically, it boils down to that there isn't anybody else that wants to take on the management of it. So it would throw it onto the shoulders of in-house officials here, and we're not qualified to do that.
no, I get it, Rick. There was no information on the number of people involved or how much it was going to cost or why we even had the discussion. So I apologize if it was from December of 2020. I didn't go back that far in the notes. I only went back to.
That's okay. That's quite all right. Quite all right.
It was negotiated last year, but
Yeah.
we didn't start moving forward with the plan until middle of this year.
Okay,
And it's taken quite a while to get things back and forth on this. So we're doing it in parts and pieces is what we're doing. And that's what tonight will do. So,
okay.
all right. So any other questions?
Nope, thank you so much. It's just going to be part of the regular budget that the fire department submits as part of the approval process is kind of the other last question I had. So I see
Right.
Jennifer shaking her head, so I'm good if she's good. Thank you. Appreciate the time. Thank you so
Sure.
much.
All right. So on that note, I think what I'll try and do, if there's no opposition from the board, I'll do the super motion guy here to keep things moving along. So did I skip something? No, I didn't. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to approve resolution 21-21 for the establishment of a post-employment medical expense reimbursement plan for the firefighters in the is it IAFF? Ken?
Yes, IFF.
IFF. All right, that was a motion.
Support, Salvia.
Okay, any discussion on that? Anybody need any more information or have any questions? Board members?
No,
All right, if there's no questions, then I'll ask for a vote, please.
All right. Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, the new business, and this is should be the approval of the 2022 township budget. There's anybody that's looking at maybe the information that was put in sent out in the packet. There's the only modification is not to the new budget, but to a number on page 14. And it's in fire capital. Let me get to page 14 on my paper stuff here. And it has no effect on the 2022 budget. It's just some of the we've been working with looking at this budget. So that item under the 12/31/21 amended on the previous budget that you'd seen was $3 million and some odd dollars. We changed that to $1,100,000 because we weren't going to spend $3.3 million in 2021. So we modified or amended the budget for the purposes of making it make more sense. So that's the only change. So it doesn't change the proposed budget, and everything else was the same as what we looked at before. I think that this budget, we're in good condition, great condition actually, and looking forward to 2022 already. I can't believe it. I mean, years gone by, and here we are doing it again. And I appreciate everything that everybody has done in this community, and hopefully we're giving back to the community in the best way we can. So, and we're doing it to last for the next 50 years. So, anybody have any questions? I'll do this. I'll make the motion. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that. I'm the guy in charge of putting out the budget. So somebody else make a motion to approve.
I would move to approve the proposed budget for 2022 as presented.
Support
Frederick,
Lewis.
second.
Lewis, support. All right, any discussion on it? I think what I'll bring up is those that have looked at it, we made some changes over last year's, and that was the way that the documents presented. Find that page on page 8. Did calculation that's in a big green bar, and that calculation is the net revenue over or under expenditures, and shows you the beginning fund balance and the ending fund balance. So those are, I think, show how we get to where we're going. So that's one of the changes in the physical appearance and aspect, and makes it easier to compare year to year. So, all right, anybody else have any comments or questions? All right, let's put a vote to it.
Okay, Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
All right, I want to thank everybody for especially on the board and the community that has trusted us to move forward and be able to put together budgets that are that easy to pass without knocking our heads together. So the in-house team here is phenomenal. I'm going to give a lot of kudos to Jennifer because she really helped me as much as she always did before when she was my assistant, and even more so. So thank you, Jennifer and Tammy and our bookkeeping department. So, all right, next item is Resolution 21-16, 2022 General Appropriations Act. I'll make a motion to approve that resolution, 21-16, 2022 General Appropriations Act. And that is where we have to declare what we're going to be charging for millages. So I made the motion to approve that. Anybody want a second?
For support.
Okay, discussion on that?
The only discussion is on the agenda, it says resolution 2116, but I think actually on the resolution is 2117.
Says 16.
So 60 on mine.
My copy.
Oh, maybe I printed out an old one. Okay, good.
All right.
Are you just testing me or did a good job? You scared me there. I go, not again. Here we go. All right. So if there's no other comments, vote please.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, the next item, I'll make a motion to approve 21-17 to opt out of PA 152 of 2011. Can I get a second on that motion?
Support.
Frederick, second.
Go ahead, Jen, it's yours.
Okay, so
Support Frederick.
Judy, you used to always answer the question on what the heck is this thing? So
It's just, isn't this the one with health insurance that we don't require whatever the 20% copay for our employees for healthcare? I
correct.
believe that's what it is.
Yeah.
We should probably put that in the resolution.
It's not copay, it's the 20% of the premium.
Right. That's what I meant.
Okay.
Thanks for the clarification.
All right, so we had a motion, we had support. Any further discussion on that? We have to do that every year, so,
It's kind of housekeeping, yep.
yep. Okay, no discussion, then vote please.
All right, Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Mr. Howe has joined the session here. So Brian, we've been moving on. We're at item 10D now. So that'll be, I'll make the motion. I'm going to explain something first. This resolution 2120 for approving the community development block grant application. When we make a motion and vote on the resolution, we have to also go back and vote on each individual item. That's the way Cdbg wants it done. So there'll be a total of 5 votes on this one document. One of which is transportation, of which I'll have to recuse myself for that vote because I'm on the board of the transportation department. So I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 21-20 approving the 2022 Community Development Block Grant application.
Support Salvia.
Okay, moved and supported. Any questions on this? It's another thing we do each year with, we determine where the money is going to be distributed from our CDBG funds that we receive.
Supervisor Hamel, do you want me to go over it a little bit?
You can, yes.
Okay, so this year we're getting approximately $30,638 from CDBG through HUD. And we're allowed to spend those things on housing, public facilities, public service, community development activities that all benefit low-income households and persons with special needs. So I just pick or present what we've done in the past. And I'm proposing that we put 21,000 plus to the senior center restrooms to bring them to current ADA standards. And then the rest of the funds are public service, and you can only spend 30%. So $3,063 towards transportation, $3,063 towards Haven, which is services for victims of domestic violence. And then $3,063 to senior services, which we would do Meals on Wheels. That's what it says in the resolution. And then that's what each individual vote would be for.
Okay, so we'll start off with make a motion to approve the amount of $21,449 for CDBG funds to be spent for the senior centers. So need a support on that.
Support Lewis.
Okay, and the vote, please.
Mr. Howe,
Yes.
one moment. Do we vote? Do we need to vote on the resolution first before we vote on
Oh, we
this?
didn't
or-
do that, did we?
No.
Oh, I thought we did.
You have a motion and a second on the resolution.
Okay, and then we have discussion. Okay, yes, we need to vote on the resolution.
All right. So let's make this vote on the resolution. Mr. Howe, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Okay.
All right. I'll pick up on the motion that I made prior to that for the senior centers. Make the motions to spend $21,449 CBD funds for senior center.
Lewis,
Support.
support.
Oh, go ahead, Beth.
Oh,
Okay, so vote please.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
She muted.
Oh, Frederick, yes, sorry.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
How, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
All right.
Okay, next item, Jenny, why don't you make the motion for the transportation, if you don't mind?
Nope, we move to approve the 2022 CDBG application to allocate $3,063 towards transportation services.
Support. How?
Okay, we're gonna have a vote. I'm gonna recuse myself because I'm on the board of the WODA Transportation Services that will be a recipient of these funds.
All right, Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. How, yes.
Mrs. Cooper.
Cooper, yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next item, make a motion to allocate $3,063 of CDBG funds for services for victims of domestic violence, also known as Haven.
Cooper, support.
Okay, moved and supported. Any discussion? If not, then vote please.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Mr. Hamel, yes. Okay, next motion to allocate $3,063 of CDBG funds towards senior services.
Support, Howe.
Moved and supported. Vote please.
Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
All right. Hang on there, Devin. We're getting there. Okay, the next item is 10E. It's a license. I'm going to make the motion to approve the license agreement for use, scheduling, operation, and maintenance of Duck Lake baseball fields.
Support, Howe.
Moved and supported. Any discussion on that? Jennifer, you want to toss in some Y4s?
Yep, so this was just to update the existing contract with Huron Valley Youth Baseball Softball League and to more outline the practices that we actually do. So this mimics the soccer club, the soccer fields maintenance agreement. And it just tells exactly what they are responsible for and what we're responsible for. So once we approve it, I'll send it to Huron Valley Youth Baseball Softball League and get their signatures.
All right, yeah, it was to clean up some vagaries and just to get a better, cleaner contractor agreement with them.
Yeah.
So any discussion on that? All right, then we'll call for a vote, please.
Hey, Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Howe, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Hamel,
Hamel, yes. Next item, 10F. I'll make the motion to approve resolution number 21-18. It's a performance resolution for Michigan Department of Transportation.
Lewis,
Support, Howe. Oh, sorry, Beth.
Oh, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Brian supports. This is another one of those annual things. In order for us to do anything in the medians, like plantings or place signs or any of that stuff, we have to pass this agreement with MDOT. So that's what this is for. It's partly how we do the Monarch Mile as well.
That include the supervisor mowing?
That's actually, that's a requirement. I signed a contract. I have to mow that thing.
Oh, okay,
My name's on it.
gotcha.
All right. We had a motion in support was who? Anybody?
Beth,
Brian,
me, oh, me, yeah.
You,
Or
Brian.
I don't care.
I thought there was a fight over that. So, all right. Vote please.
Mr. Howe,
Oh, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Frederick,
Mrs. Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
Right. Next item is cell tower. Jenny's been working on this, but this is one of those things that I've had multiple phone calls from people that want to buy our cell towers. They want to change the agreements. They want to, everybody's hot on these cell towers. Even though people say that those cell towers, with 5G and these satellites orbiting the Earth, that the cell towers aren't going to have any value. Well, it just so happens that, and I know Tammy and Jenny anyways have heard me talked about this before. When I was a young guy, a friend of mine's father bought a nursing home. And what he said to his family, the kids, was, this is a money tree. Whatever you do, don't chop down the money tree. That cell tower is a money tree. And it's obvious it's a money tree because everybody wants it. And they want to give us money for it so that we no longer have the money tree ourselves. So we've sent this off to the attorneys. Attorneys have analyzed it. The reality is, this is a super deal for us because SBA, who owns the tower, we own the land underneath it, but SBA that owns the tower has agreed to extend this lease to 2050 something. What was it, 58 or
2057, I think.
Yep,
Yeah.
2057.
And they're going to give us increase in, they're going to give us the same 4% they were going to give us before annually, plus there's like a $20,000 bonus. It's the money tree and we shouldn't chop it down. We should just continue and agree to my suggestion is that we maintain this thing, so stick with it. So I guess, did I make the motion already or probably not? So I'll make the motion that we accept the revised proposed amendment and extension of the site lease agreement for the SBA cell tower.
Support, Hal.
Okay.
I have a question.
Sure.
Going so far out, I get it's great, but what happens if, it might be a dumb question, and it probably is, but what happens if cell towers aren't the way it is in 2040? I mean, who knows how technology is going to change? Do we just write a new contract or whatever new would come along? I mean, I'm assuming that's going to be the technology, but it just seems like we're going so far in the future that, I don't know, just seems weird to me to go that far in the future. So
I know it seems weird, but we're not the ones that suffer from it.
Sure.
So if it all just goes down the toilet and nobody ever uses cell towers anymore, then the money tree just died. We didn't chop it down. So if SBA, there's still 6 years left on the agreement, Jennifer, is that correct?
Correct.
So they're doing this early and pushing this out for 37 more years, so if they're willing to do that, then there's something in the works that says these towers are high value. And the other thing is that you can build cell towers anywhere. You can't really stop people from building towers. So this is part of the infrastructure that I think is going to be valuable for a long, long time. And partly because, 5G's got all this big hoo-ha about how great it's going to be, but
one more question when you're done. So what if SBA goes out of business? Are they still on the hook for the duration of the contract?
You know
what I mean? What if it's like getting a warranty or getting like a gift card to some place and they go out of business? It's no good anymore. How does that work? Are they on the hook till 2057?
Or we own the tower.
Okay. All right.
I mean, that would be probably what would happen. Joe Ellen, you're on. You have a comment on that?
Well, usually these companies get taken over by somebody else. Someone else acquires their assets. So the new owner should be responsible to honor the contract. If there's a bankruptcy, maybe that would change it. But usually if it's a valuable asset, someone else is going to want the contract.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it's great for us. There's no doubt. It seems strange to me to go that far out. And
well, it's strange to me too, but the stranger thing is how many people want that thing.
Oh, sure. Buy into it or hook onto it.
Yeah, so it's something we want to hold on to.
Yeah, for sure.
What it does.
Brian, I asked SBA why they were trying to renegotiate 6 years before our contract actually was up. And they said that just makes them stronger to get people to be on their tower.
So Rose just sent me a little question, Rosalie Ambrosi, and she asked about how many towers we have. And I think we have 2, right?
Highland Township has 2.
There's 3 in the township. One is privately owned by the Peterson family.
And there's one at the high school.
And there's one out Tipsico Lake somewhere.
Yeah, one up
Yep.
on Charlie's property, right?
Yep.
But those are all, we don't have anything to do with those.
No, Highland Township only owns 2.
Well, they own the land that 2 are on.
And which
So
one are those again?
AT&T Tower, which is at Fire Station 3 at Buckhorn Lake Road.
Okay,
And the other one is at the library property.
okay, that's right. Okay, thank you.
So there, and SBA is one owner and AT&T is another owner. So
All right.
different entities. All right. Any other questions on that?
No, thank you very much for that clarification.
You're
And
welcome.
Jenny, how many like hitchhikers on the library one? Are we getting paid by like 4 different companies?
Yep, so there's at least 4 co-locators. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but yeah, there's, we get paid monthly from each of the co-locators. And then we get paid monthly from SBA, who, like Joellen said, it used to be Nextel owned. They built the tower and then SBA purchased it from them and have been our partner since.
And all this money goes into capital improvement, right?
Yep, and this year, I think we're up to 150,000 or 180, or yeah, 180,000 that we
Nice.
get from both our cell towers.
So that saves the taxpayers some, that's partly how we fund what we're doing is, and keep our taxes at 0.6 mils. So, or what do we?
Still can't get Comcast to everybody. Still frustrates me. Sorry. That's just, I know it's a whole different topic, but that just bugs me.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about that very shortly. So
Good, good.
all right. So we need to vote on this.
All right. Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item is, I'll make a motion to approve the budget amendment for building inspectors and cemetery maintenance. It's to increase the expenditure lines from the increase in revenues where the net effect is 0. So,
Support.
okay,
Howe. Get that out of the way first so we can talk about it.
all right.
Yeah.
So any discussion on it?
No.
All right. We'll do a vote, please.
Right, Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
All right, next item, 10I. Make the motion to approve the budget amendment for fire capital construction in process Station 2. Support on that?
Support. Howe.
Moved and supported. If you remember earlier in the budget process there, I mentioned this exact item. This is to make that correction, even though it doesn't affect next year's budget. It is how we're affecting this year's budget. So we're reducing the Tammy, you want to explain this?
Yeah.
I just went into a stumble.
Originally, we had budgeted for the whole project of Station 2 in this fiscal year. And then as we were developing the budget for next fiscal year, we realized, okay, we're not going to spend this money twice. We're only going to spend a certain amount of the project this year and a certain amount next year. So we wanted to reduce this year's budget so it doesn't appear that we're budgeting for the whole thing twice.
All right. Any questions on that? Okay, I'll just throw a little bit in there. When we're going through and doing the budget, this is something we never used to do. What it does is it brings the budget into line at the end of the year to reflect more actually what what's occurring, so that when the next year comes up and you go to budget and you're working off of these old numbers that really weren't accurate, then you have to go through and go, well, that really didn't reflect where we're heading. So that's why we do these things too. They're basically a maintenance item. So I guess we need a vote.
All right. Clerk Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Howell votes yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Mr. Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is proposal for development of Highland Township Broadband Master Plan. So I do have to do some pre-explanation here. Some of you may remember this from back in August of 2020. This documentation is literally pretty much the same. On board, we have Devin Cox, who is with us from Entry Point Networks. And as I said, I spent a tremendous amount of time over the last couple of years, one with Mr. Cox. He also made presentations to our OCATs. He's worked with SEMCOG. He's a partner with Merit out of Ann Arbor. And if you also recall, in your package was a PowerPoint from an attorney that was recommended by Gary, our previous attorney. And one of the things is that we were told you should go find out who this Entry Point works with, and the circle all just kept coming back to the same place, that Devin Cox and Mr. Peterson, that's right, his last name is Peterson, Christensen, and came up in every place I went. And in fact, with SEMCOG, they had a presentation. And the irony is a presentation that was made to us by Mr. Cox a year or so ago, was the identical one that this fellow was using. So I called Mr. Cox up. I said, what's going on? Why is this guy using your presentation to try and show this process? And Devin said that he gave the guy permission to do it because he believes that we need to be looking further ahead, and that broadband is something that is critical to our future and reality. So when we first started to talk, COVID wasn't an issue, didn't even exist, and that was in 2019. And so during 2020, it became very clear that broadband and reliable broadband and broadband for everybody is something that Highland Township needs to be on top of. And I belong to a group with SEMCOG that is looking into broadband for Southeast Michigan, how we're going to do it. And the first thing that comes into play, and I kind of hope the Comcast representatives are listening to this, is that Comcast and AT&T and Verizon and everybody are at the table. And it's like, wow, here we have all these supervisors and other individuals in the community and educators that are looking at how can we promote these systems, and there is the perpetrators of a lot of the problem. And so in our township, we have a monopoly. We also have an issue where will Comcast put cable to everybody? Absolutely, if you want to pay for it. And pay means kind of like electricity these days. You can't build a house generally without electricity. So as a part of the cost of the home, you end up paying Detroit Edison for the fee for either an underground line or a multitude of poles. And in Highland, we have a lot of large format properties. So there's people that are, at 2,000 a pole. It doesn't take long or more to add up to some huge numbers. So anywhere from 2,000 to 20,000. So I think the one I heard in the last one was an $18,000 proposal from Comcast for somebody who has plenty of resources. They're not poor. They, in the normal world, they would easily probably buy the $200 a month package, you know, or more. So it just is really aggravating that we're allowing our country to be pretty much put on the third world level of broadband. I've traveled to Europe. I've traveled to, I went to Peru a couple of years ago. And one of the things you find out is you go to Peru, and I don't care where you're at, their cell systems work at 12,000 feet the entire length of the country, and there's no people around. How's that? You know, they have high-speed fiber internet through majority of the cities. It doesn't make any sense that we aren't doing the same thing. And what it is, it's the money. You know, unless somebody's going to toss the money forward, nobody's going to do it. So what else has come up is now we have this scenario where we've got some funding available through the federal government, ARPA funds, that are specifically pointed towards broadband improvements. And this is an opportunity to say, okay, let's not delay this any longer. Let's get moving, because if we can get the ball rolling and we can have, you know, some shovel-ready stuff available or nearly ready, the chances of us getting more support from our federal government may be greater. And it's the kind of thing that we're going to need to do to force the providers into providing real service at a cost that's realistic to the users. So anyways, in the conversations with Mr. Cox and some of the numbers that we went through and that, which were in your package, you could kind of see some of the estimates. The idea behind this process is that if we can service all 7,000 or 8,000 units that we have in this community that would probably hook up or could hook up, and we could do it for just, I'm going to just throw some basic numbers out there, for $3,000 a unit. What would happen is they would be able to, we would be able to do an SAD that would allow them to finance that $3,000 or pay it out in cash. And in return, you now have a truly publicly owned entity. The township, the people own the system. And instead of pricing it for profit, you price it for the ability for everybody to have the access they need to move forward in their life. You know, these people are going to be working at home now that they may never go back to an office. If we don't have that service available, and a reliable service available, and high speed service, not just up to numbers, but continuous speeds, then we're going to get left behind. And it will eventually come back to haunt us and what people are going to want to live in our community, and who's going to move away and why. So that's the reason that I've been very steadfast in moving forward for this. Now, here's the conundrum, and this is going to be a motion. And in our board policy, it says we're supposed to go out for RFPs for any numbers over $10,000. This is a $27,000 item here, but my recommendation through all of the research that I've done and the assistance from Mr. Cox and the Merit Group in Ann Arbor, and it just makes sense to continue on with the company that we've been working with. And so I'm going to make the motion that we set aside board policy in this particular case, and to allow us to approve the development of a Highland Township master plan. So that's a motion to set aside the board policy.
Support.
Okay, moved and supported. Vote, please.
All right, Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe, yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Quick Flowers votes yes. Mr. Ham,
Mr. Hammond, yes.
motion carries.
Okay, so the next motion, we'll be able to have discussion on this. So the next motion is to approve the proposal from Entry Point. Is it still, let's see, LLC, Entry Point Networks, LLC, for the development of a Highland Township broadband master plan.
Cooper, support.
Okay, moved and supported. Discussion. So I want to start out first with there's some interesting things that I think this has a potential for above and beyond just the Wi-Fi and the high-speed internet. It's a concept, but I think it has some very interesting merit. And if we do this first, it may be the tool that allows us to put a sewer in Highland. And you're probably going, what? How is that going to work? If you look at how many people are paying $200 a month for Comcast, this is one thing that Mr. Cox will develop in his proposal, is he will look at these numbers and give us, averages and all that. But if you can cut everybody's access fees from $200 to $50, you have $150 a month that you could spend on something else. Okay, so let's move it to the sewer question. If you had to put in a sewer and each unit cost $20,000 and you had a 20-year SAD, you'd have $1,000 a year you'd pay. You're at a net gain, because at $150 a month times 12, you're going to have leftover money and you're going to have pay for your sewer as well. And it's a kind of it's an out there thought process, but when you look at the way that you can leverage the value of what we can do for the public, and the sewer is one of those really hard things for people to accept, because 20 grand's a huge number. But when your septic system fails and you've got to do a $30,000 or $40,000 field and you have to find your own financing, you might be in trouble. And this is a way to really kind of look at that. The financing for the fiber, if it's $3,000 or $4,000 a unit, I don't know, we'll have those numbers that'll come out of this project, this process. It makes a big difference. And then once the individuals have paid down their $3,000 or $4,000, their monthly fee will go down dramatically for their fiber. So think about that. Where have you seen that happen before? Not with Comcast. They keep saying, we'll sign you up for $35 a month if you take the telephone and you take this, and then that's 2 years. Then after 2 years, they got you up to $200 a month, like that. So this is a way to be realistic about it. And so if anybody's got any comments, I'd like to have you ask questions at this time. Just what's on your mind and how do you feel about this? Did I make everybody get freaked out, or?
Rick, this is Missy. Is this the public as well, or just the board
Yeah,
discussion?
if you want to make a comment, it's a board discussion, but you're going to be affected by that.
Right. So my question is, it sounds like people still have to pay into it to participate. What about the underprivileged that need it for school? Stuff like that. Will there be a program eventually? Do you see that happening? If it's here, to help these people?
The intent is to make that available. Now, there are some programs that are coming up through, ARPA and the new broadband, the new bill that they just passed in Washington, that are going to put some monies aside to help people that are, hurting, can't afford it. But if we're going to do this project, we should make sure that as a community, we support those that can't necessarily afford it. But what you're going to see is the rates on these things are low enough that it will reduce the number of people who can't afford it. Most people can't afford cable.
I know that.
Too high. And so they try everything else they can. So a lot of people can't afford it, not most people, but So there's a lot we're going to learn out of this. There's a lot to be learned. And I think that we'd be remiss to not take advantage of something like this to move forward. We want high quality of amenities for our community. We want to be able to.
No, I agree.
Yeah. So, and it'd be benefit to all the business owners as well. Now, here's an interesting element to it. If we take this on, guess what? Comcast isn't going to give us any money anymore. We do bring in about $320,000 a year from Comcast. So that's a revenue that you look at and go, wow, took a hit on that. But the reality is, if you're making it available to everybody else, it's worth the hit, because I think what'll happen in the long run is it'll come back to us. It'll increase the value of the properties here in Highland. It'll come back. And we just have to learn how to work with that. Now it's going to be a couple of years to find out.
Well, it's a paradigm shift. I mean, I hate that. That's old college videos we always watch, changing the paradigm, but it's a different thought process. I mean, you're so used to being Comcast. My question is this. Now, maybe I missed something, but we're talking obviously internet, high-speed internet, and we're talking, like TV stuff.
Yes. What happens here, and Devin, I'm going to let you pipe in here in a minute. I just want to make sure that I've got a grasp on this myself so that you understand this. What happens is, if you go back to your documentation, the entry point has a pretty long piece there. Look at the entry point stuff. There's the Highland would be the fiber owner. And anybody that wants to be on our fiber, they would pay for that, so that would be the ISP. So you could have Comcast, you could have AT&T, you could have any of these other providers could be on our fiber. There's also Netflix, all these different things. You can have access to all of that. And the interesting part is on demand. If you can sign up for it yourself on the internet, through the site that is a part of the program, you pick and choose what you want, how much additional you want to spend. Your basic high-speed internet will be one price, and then you can add on like you do for Comcast. But the thing is you want to quit something, you quit it right there that night, morning or whatever, and pick something else up. So there's a lot more flexibility involved in it. So
thank you.
Let me, Devin, would you mind coming on, and we'll, I'd like to have you just give a little bit of a conversation here.
Rick, 2 quick questions though, before
Yes,
Devin starts. You're motioning tonight to investigate it, right?
This is to spend $27,000
Right.
for the broadband master plan, to investigate it. Yeah.
Right, so it wouldn't be the final commitment. This is to see what it would cost, what it would, how it affect us, all that good stuff.
Yep.
And then secondly, you talked about a $3,000 original cost. Is that what you're saying? Each homeowner or whoever wants to buy into it originally?
Yeah, in essence, it's like you buy the box,
Gotcha. Okay.
and the wire the fiber going to your house. So it's that cost from the main trunk to that, and
So
what that does, it also covers the cost of the cable as a whole.
Gotcha. So the public we would endure that cost as opposed to the township.
Right, but where that would come from is we would have an SAD and probably have to do a bond or something.
Right.
Get that detail, but
Okay.
So it allows for everybody to essentially finance that, so that could be over 3-year, 5-year, that's to be determined. So, but for $3,000, people might just cough it up right away and then just enjoy the cost of the access only, which is much cheaper. So,
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So when we get this rolling here, I'm gonna some way I got to figure out how to get this communication out there to everybody. But we need to have a major sit down with the public and go through this, and that's part of this whole process. So, okay, Devin.
Yes, hello, everybody. Thanks for letting me kind of listen in and join your conversation. So much of what Rick shared with you is accurate. So a couple of things I'll just emphasize just to kind of clarify a few things. The first is that most of the people that we talk to that are in any kind of municipal government, we've never had anybody disagree with the fact that in today's world, broadband connectivity is considered as essential as water, sewer, electricity. Okay. As far as education, as far as work from home, as far as all of those things, just as essential. And so when we get that agreement from people, our next question is always then, why don't we treat it like a utility? Why don't we treat it like our water or our electricity? Okay, now there's something very specific we're talking about there, right? Does everybody in the township of Highland have access to electricity? The answer is probably yes. Does everybody have access to water? In fact, do you even allow a developer to build a house without water? Probably not. I don't know the answer to these. I'm just asking rhetorical questions. So then why, if it is as essential as water and electricity or the road systems throughout our neighborhoods in our town, why don't we treat it like a luxury item where it's only really available to those that can afford it? Okay. So the premise of this question is simply this: if we were to treat it like our utility system, then what would happen is that the members of the town would own it publicly. Okay, now we're talking about the infrastructure. Okay, so the best metaphor to use there is we compare it to the road systems today, right? So if we ran our road systems the way we run our communication systems today and our communication networks, what that would look like is FedEx would build a road to every home, UPS would build a second road to every home, and UPS trucks would not be allowed to run over FedEx roads to deliver packages, right? Or vice versa, right? So that makes no sense in the world of physical road systems, right? You only need one road, but then you open that road up and you allow all of the carriers that deliver packages to run on your roads, as long as they follow the rules of the road, right? So we propose the same thing in communication networks, okay? We believe that we should be building a single digital road system. We believe the best medium, and certainly the most future-proof medium for that, is fiber optic media, as opposed to, you know, DSL or cable, coax, or others. And because it's just the horizon for development of fiber, they haven't even seen the horizon line, the end of it. And that should be managed like our road systems, publicly owned and managed, but then allow private companies, this is what Rick was talking about, allow the private companies to come on and run over those road systems and deliver services, whether those be ISP services, whether those be video entertainment services, or whether they be a whole host of other kind of services that will come around and be available for smart city functionality, inefficiencies. I mean, there's telehealth, all kinds of different things that can run over these networks if they're open. So that model is called open access, okay? And is probably it is the de facto standard throughout Europe, okay? And other parts of the world. And it's gaining huge traffic here in the US. In fact, we've seen a huge push towards open access in the last, couple of years, in fact. So any questions about any of that?
They're in awe. I think my sewer analogy probably.
Watch this. I'm in awe.
So
the only last thing I'll say is the idea behind the plan that Rick is talking about, and we've done these now for about, I think we're on about our 32nd or 33rd plan for cities and townships throughout from California to Maine. The whole purpose of it is to get the ideas and the plan organized around what is possible. Some of the questions about costs, that's called feasibility. Is it actually feasible for us to do this? What are potential funding sources for this? What are potential grant opportunities for this? What are other, in fact, we even go into explaining other municipal models. So open access is not the only one. Okay, there are other, there's utility models that some company, like for example, in Tennessee, the local electric company has done broadband, right, in Chattanooga. So there are different models and we explain those. So, this particular council will have access to all that information when we're finished with the report. But it just essentially establishes, if the township were to do this, what would be the best and most feasible way of accomplishing it? What would be the strategic goals of the township doing this, right? And then from there, like Rick mentioned, we're seeing a lot of opportunities, funding opportunities, supplement what the township does from the federal government. We're even seeing states step up to the table. I haven't seen anything from Michigan yet, but I think there probably will be. And so we're tracking all of those things. And obviously that all kind of plays into this idea. How much it ultimately costs an individual property largely depends upon the take rate, right? So if 100% of the properties take service, that's a very, very different cost structure per individual property than if 50% of the township decide to take or get connected to the fiber network, if you will, right? The municipal network. So all of those things will work through and establish, pro forma financials, so you guys have a very, very clear understanding of what each of those stages would represent. So anyway, hopefully that's helpful.
Very good. Devin, thank you very much. Devin's out in Utah. Are you in Provo or something like that, or?
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City? Yeah.
Oh, Utes.
Yeah.
I got one question.
Sure.
With your broad experience across the country, have you found any unintended consequences of this program anywhere?
Of what program are you talking about, Peter?
The one you're just mentioning for Highland Township.
No, in fact, it's interesting. Entry Point started out as a software developer for the open access platform, right? For an open access platform, a better way to put that. And we didn't ever anticipate getting into the consulting side of it, because we figured that the large consulting firms that have a lot of experience, a lot of history developing broadband plans and feasibility studies for municipalities, that they would see the open access model and actually be part of their consulting to cities and municipalities throughout the country. And what we found was that nobody had any expertise in open access, nor were they really willing or interested in learning about open access. So we decided, you know what, we're going to have to start educating people about this model if nobody else will. The interesting thing that has come about, like I said, we've done about 33 or 34 of these in the last 2 years. The couple of things that have come out of that is, if you look at the number of cities that we've done plans for that are actually moving forward with the development of a municipal network, okay, it's about 92% of those cities. But if you look at the large consulting firms, this was astonishing to us. Over the last 10 years, there have been over 3,000 studies done for municipalities, ranging in cost from $50,000 to $125,000, depending on the size of the municipality itself. But yet there's only about 20 municipal networks that have actually been built. So we thought there's clearly a disconnect between those plans and those, methodologies and thought process. If just a fraction of 1% are actually leading towards an actual successful, meaningful deployment of a broadband, municipal broadband network. And so we just kind of changed the model. And we just said, first of all, we're going to do it at cost. So we're not going to be motivated just to sell you the next, study, right? So we do all of our studies at our cost. And then second of all, we want to make sure we outline and emphasize all the different models and let you guys decide what is the best model for Highland, right? Because that just doesn't happen in a traditional model or traditional consulting endeavor. So that's I think what attracted Rick to us initially, and what has continued the conversations for the last couple of years. So hopefully that's helpful, Peter. Any follow-up questions?
No.
Okay.
So I got another additional point of view on this one, and it's the one thing that I took from Devin that he hasn't said anything about, and that's that he did mention that they're a software company. And one of the things with other consulting companies or firms that do this stuff is they're more than willing to take on the project of defining this stuff. But what happens when you decide to say, let's do it? Now you've got to find somebody to take you to the next mile. And that's the people that are going to help you set up the process and the programming for managing it. And that's something that I guess, Devin, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's your expertise, and that's what you guys do. And that's one of the things that I saw that really stood out to me, was that it's not just here's your proposed costs and here's what we can do to help you make it roll forward. We can take it to the step where now we can help you be successful at managing it with software that is developed to be able to manage that system. Can you define that a little more, Devin?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are, as you can understand, there are different, if you will, phases in a project like this. The first phase is to get all of your documentation, your strategy, your plan down, right? Because the plan then kind of drives the other phases. But there are phases of, vetting contractors that would actually deploy the fiber, to manage that process, kind of like similar to an architect that designs a building, okay? Well, if it's a commercial building like a school or library, right? I mean, they stay involved. They go on site every other week, and they make sure the contractors are building to the plan and building to the specification of the engineering firm, right? All that good stuff. And that's something that was very, very important to us, because frankly, a lot of our clients, they love the concepts that we share with them, but they scratch their says, I don't know anything about fiber. I don't know anything about construction. So it was very important to us to build a process that is not required by the township, but if you want to, after the plan, if the plan is compelling and motivational to everybody certainly on this council, but also the community members of Highland, then we want to make sure we have a path. We have a step B and C and D to get you to where now it's a very, very, not only the deployment, but then also the long-term management of the infrastructure itself. Kind of like you have to manage your roads, right? You have to go fill potholes. Well, same kind of thing. And we make sure that we have those things in place, whether that is a group that the township decides to kind of bring up as a department inside the township, or whether it's a third party that you decide to outsource that management to. We make sure that all those people are trained properly. And that is something that makes us very unique in the marketplace. And to that end, the person that actually does that is actually the only person that's actually deployed a successful open access network in the United States. And that is Bruce Patterson. He used to be the IT director at the city of Ammon, Idaho. And if any of you guys have heard of Ammon, I know Rick's got a lot of videos I send him about Ammon, but Ammon's probably gotten more press than any other network in the country because of how revolutionary, their approach was. And so now Bruce, fortunately for us, heads up all of our deployment and our project management for all of our clients. So hopefully that helps you.
And that was going to be my question is, your consulting's done at cost. Where's your rest of your benefit for your company? And you've answered that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, our philosophy is very simple, that if we can bring you enough value and lead you to a deployment, then you guys will be motivated. It's not required, but you guys will likely use our software. And that's how we make our living, is in licensing our software.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And managing the construction as well? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, we do take a little bit of profit off that, but not a huge amount. Again, we want to keep that really, really lean for our clients' sakes.
Do you have representatives here in Michigan that would manage that, or would somebody be flying in from Utah to do that?
We would work with local groups to do that. But ultimately Bruce would be the overseer, and he's actually in Idaho, lives in Idaho. But yeah, he would work with the people that would be on the ground, and he would oversee them.
Thank you.
All right. Well, anybody else have any questions for Devin? I wish it didn't take this long to get to this level, but I had to make sure that I looked at all the avenues I could look at, and it just, everything kept pointing, it's time. And especially with the how could you have anything positive out of COVID? This is it. We need to address our township's ability to have access, reliable access, and high-speed access, and at a realistic price. And I think that all the analogy to it really should be like streets and sewers and water. It doesn't leave the business model out. It still allows it to incorporate it, as Devin said, for letting them get on the road or the track or whatever, and follow it through. So I guess if there's no more questions.
I would just add something. It's important that we have some other opportunity to have some competitive pricing. We can't go anywhere, and these folks got everybody locked down pretty hard. And so I strongly support that. Plus, there's more flexibility in programming and picking things that you really want to see and use. So I would strongly support this.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments? All right.
All I know is when I first started on this board, I was on the committee that went over and met at the WOCA committee, and I was just appalled by the cockiness and the attitude of Comcast. They didn't care at all. Dale Fagley, who's been trying to get this forever. And I was told by the former supervisor from Commerce, well, tell them to move then. That was his answer. I was livid. I couldn't believe he told me that. I said, what? That's what he said. Tell them they should move then if they can't get broadband. And then Comcast said, we're not, that was just, I was very young doing this, and I was just shocked by the attitude. Comcast didn't care, and they were proud. And it was a great thing they were doing to get, Wi-Fi for people very cheaply in the big cities. But I kept saying to him, what are you going to do for us that have been customers forever? And he didn't even care. And that guy's long gone. Fred somebody, he's retired. And I just was just shocked by their attitude. And so I think we need to kick them to the curb if possible. I was very appalled from the beginning. And the problem is when you're stuck with something, you're stuck with something. And it's sad, but I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They didn't even, I think everybody was just happy the money they were getting back from Comcast. And that made what was more important to the townships than helping people. And I thought that was just ridiculous. So yeah. I'm glad we'll have some other opportunities. Tell Comcast to hit the road.
All right. Okay, we can, if everybody's ready, let's vote.
Okay, Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Howe,
Mr. Howe, a huge yes.
Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Quick Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mr. Hamel,
Mr. Hamel, yes.
motion carries.
All right, thank you very much. Devin, you can sign off if you want. We appreciate your coming all the way from Salt Lake City to be with us tonight. And we're going to look forward to moving on and see you in person, I hope, at some point. So,
And with the time change, you can still have an evening. Congratulations.
Thanks, everybody. I look forward to working with you.
okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right,
Next
next.
comment, Peter Worthman looks like he's in outer space orbiting somewhere.
I'm thinking it's his Trekkie look. You're
So,
muted, Peter.
Joe, I had a conversation with an extraterrestrial today.
yeah.
That's all I can say.
All right. I've been watching a lot of things.
Politically correct.
Yeah.
Hey, before we adjourn, I've got a question. I apologize for being late. I'm coaching basketball and we're all the way down in South Lyon. So I was pretty happy I got back as fast as I did. I'm assuming the budget passed. I missed the beginning.
Yes.
Right. And I just want to make a comment for Rick. I know it's not just Rick doing the budget, but I know when I first started, I had no clue how the budget worked and how it, how all the stuff that went into it. I remember the very first meeting that we had on the budget and we went through that thing point by point. And that was one of the probably longest nights of my life, but I learned so much that night. Everybody had kids. We used to have people coming to the meetings. We were obviously way pre-COVID. And even the kids, even Rick told them, this is not gonna be the most exciting stuff, but for a person like me that didn't really understand it, I really learned a lot. So, I mean, every time I see the budget now, it makes much more sense, but I just want to give kudos to you that we've been on the board the same amount of time. And I know and I know it's not just you, but how hard you work at it to make sure that it's all everybody working together. But I'm very proud of what we do here in Highland. And I'm very proud of how hard we work at it. And not as much me, I just get to vote on it, but the amount of work that the township, everybody does the work on the budget, including the sheriff and the fire department. I just have been very impressed. I mean, the whole time I've been here, it's just amazing that yes, budgets I know we have to balance it, but it can happen. I mean, you don't see it very often. I mean, when I heard Oakland County was the only entity, I don't know if they're still doing it, they were balancing budgets 3 years in the future, which was just amazing to me. I think we're not that way, but we're doing a great job. I just want to say kudos to you, Rick, and everybody else that really puts the time into it. I mean, I get to reap the end rewards by voting on a great budget with some input, but we're not putting the work in that you guys do every day inside your little huts now, but they're in the fire station. But I just want to say great job. And it's just very proud of what we do. I'm very proud of our township. And I think we've always got to, we're looking into the future. Some of the plans might be out there like Peter in outer space, but we've got a foresight and we're looking into the future about a lot of things. And I think, I hope we see the day of sewers and I hope to see the day of stuff like that. Rick, you and I have been talking about since I first met you. I know it's been on your agenda and it's a tough thing to do because it's still not really any closer than basically when we were, and we're still not that we're not trying you're not trying. And we're just, but great job. And I think everybody that's involved in the budget, and I'm not just trying to put Rick out there. I know everybody has a big role in it, but very proud to be from Highland and what goes. I had no idea before I joined the board. I knew, I always say if your garbage is being picked up and the police and fire are doing a great job, most people don't pay attention to local government. And tell my kids that all the time. We're learning about local government, but a lot goes into this that people don't realize. So great job.
Thank you very much, Brian.
You're welcome.
We still have one agenda item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were adjourning. So I wanted to.
No, but we're not going to shut you off either.
No,
Yeah.
no.
Hey,
I
Rick,
just didn't want
Yes,
it
sir.
to end.
I just got an agenda question.
Sure.
Is that proclamation coming out today about Jude?
We did it. Yeah.
Oh, I came late, so.
You missed it.
Okay.
We'll get you a copy of it. So, all right, the final item is I make a motion to approve a budget amendment to pay for the broadband master plan.
Support. How?
Moved and supported. Vote, please.
Mr. Howe,
How says yes.
Mr. or Mrs. Cooper,
Cooper, yes.
Mrs. Frederick,
Frederick, yes.
Quick Flowers votes yes. Mr. Salvia,
Salvia, yes.
Mrs. Lewis,
Lewis, yes.
Mr. Hamel.
Hamel, yes.
Motion carries.
All right, on that note, we can adjourn and
I have a question for Matt Snyder real quick. Matt, I'm gonna give you a call real quick, okay? You'll be there, right? Okay, thanks.
all right.
Sorry, bud. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Great job, everybody.
That was a great
See you,
meeting.
everybody.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Bye.
Night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.